Ronald prepares tea and hands a cup to Yulia. She thanks him and tells him that she would have made it if he had asked. He assures her not to worry, saying it's his job, and then asks if she can explain more clearly what is going on. Yulia begins by stating that they are dealing with prophetic writings, which leaves him confused. She elaborates, telling him that there's a girl who is behaving exactly as described in the book, Conquering Men. Ronald immediately thinks of the woman he saw at the fountain and asks if Yulia is referring to her. She confirms, explaining that the woman had likely been playing at the fountain hoping he would take notice of her. Yulia reassures him that nothing will happen if he keeps his distance. However, she warns that Julie will soon start gathering evidence, believing that Yulia is the villainess from the prophetic writings, with herself as the protagonist. According to the book, the villainess bullies the protagonist, is eventually exposed, and is shunned by society. Her fiancé then annuls their engagement, and the villainess loses her standing in the academy, becoming utterly isolated. Ronald listens carefully and grabs Yulia's hand. He tells her that he knows she isn't like the villainess described in the prophecy, adding that bullying wouldn't bring her any benefit, certainly not financially. Yulia agrees and says that if she can gather proof that she hasn't bullied Julie, she will be perceived as a tragic heroine. Radonic, standing nearby, remarks that she is indeed a very black-hearted tragic heroine. Ronald, looking thoughtful, suggests that she'll need more allies to help prove her innocence. Yulia informs them that she's already surrounding herself with commoners, not only as witnesses, but also to involve them in product development for her business. Ronald nods in approval, recognizing her strategy as two birds with one stone, and offers to help her gather evidence as well. As Radonic looks at them both with confusion, he silently thanks his stars that these two aren't his enemies. A week later, in the cafeteria, Yulia presents the girls with sample products she designed based on their earlier requests. They're amazed, and soon the other girls gather around to admire the shoes. Yulia smiles to herself, knowing these designs will sell well. She shows them other designs, seeking their opinions, and they praise their beauty. Suddenly, there's a commotion as a girl falls. Yulia looks over and sees that it's Julie, with Rammer rushing to her side to help. He asks Julie if she's all right, and she reassures him. He hugs her protectively, and the crowd watches intently. Then, Rammer glares at Yulia and accuses her of causing Julie's fall. Yulia calmly responds that she did nothing, explaining that she had let her guard down since nobles usually don't come to the commoner side of the academy. Julie, still in Rammer's arms, admits that she simply tripped on her own, but Rammer, his eyes fixed on Yulia, accuses her further, claiming she tripped Julie out of revenge for losing him to her. Yulia sighs, unfazed by his accusation, and asks if he has any proof. He stubbornly asserts that Julie's fall in front of her is proof enough. Yulia, unperturbed, asks if anyone saw her move her foot to trip Julie. The gathered crowd shakes their heads. They hadn't seen anything. Yulia points out that this lack of evidence, coupled with Julie's own admission, should clear her of blame. She then questions if Rammer is refusing to believe Julie's own words. Rammer falters, telling Yulia that Julie only said that to keep him from worrying. Yulia, growing more irritated, asks if he's now calling Julie a liar. Rammer, caught off guard, stammers that Julie isn't lying. Yulia presses him to believe Julie's words, that she tripped on her own. The conversation quickly shifts as the other girls return to discussing the skirts Yulia had been showing them, and both Rammer and Julie find themselves ignored. Frustrated, they stand on the sidelines, while Yulia resumes her business. The scene shifts to Nogu's residence. As Yulia prepares to leave, the butler asks where she is headed. She explains that she's visiting her shop downtown. He offers to call for the carriage, but Yulia declines, preferring to inspect the town at her own pace. As she strolls through the town, she visits various shops before arriving at her own store. On her way, she runs into Miss Renard and Miss Grintier. They greet her as Miss Noga, but Yulia urges them to call her Yulia. They refuse, out of respect, but she is pleased to see them. She asks if something is wrong, noticing their concern. Yulia glances out the window and sees Julie approaching. Quickly, she turns back to her friends and asks if they have time to look at some new products in the back of her shop. They agree, and Yulia tells them that her new shoes will be going on sale today. Since they've helped her so much, she offers them a secret discount, and they cheerfully accept. Yulia then invites them to see the workshop. As they enter, one of her employees, Major, senses her presence and rushes over, calling for her. Major is a young man working in her workshop and the only son of Matilda, the former veterinary nurse to the prince. He's also inherited the Banshee bloodline. Major chastises Yulia for not telling him she was there. She laughs, telling him that he seemed busy. Major, not taking the hint, goes on to say that someone had told him that Yulia, his kind employer, had been violent toward him. He then grabs her arm, begging her to hit him. Yulia slaps his hand away. But this only fuels his bizarre desires. He pleads for her to hit him harder, even asking to be kicked, longing for her heel to press down on him. Yulia, clearly annoyed, tells him to stop saying such strange things in front of the store. She internally remarks that, despite his masochistic tendencies, Major is pleasant, hardworking, and handsome, which draws many customers to the shop just to see him. She then realizes, since he's Matilda's son, that his beauty will never fade, and he can work for her forever, bringing her a continuous profit. Major, oblivious to her thoughts, cheerfully tells her that he doesn't even need a bonus if she would only step on him. Yulia, exasperated, wonders how to handle the situation. Just then, the prince appears, asking when Major had become such a degenerate. To Yulia's dismay, Julie arrives as well, looking stunned by what she's witnessing. Yulia suddenly remembers Julie's presence, realizing that things are about to become very troublesome indeed.